questions for us that we both will be able to see. I'll be the one, I'll read the questions, and then you and I will connect on each other's energy on the questions, and that's pretty much it. It's us having our conversation that we have, but it's live.
All right.
We'll be watching.
Let's do it.
All right.
How long are we going for?
We can go for, can you go for 30 minutes?
Yeah, I got 20, 30 easy. No problem. No, it's no problem.
20, it'll go fast, but I'll keep an eye. So it's 7:15 right now.
Okay.
You can be done by 7:45, or I can speed it up too. Like, give me if you say, I don't know, but if you need to go before that, just let me know.
Okay, yeah, I think we'll be good. 7:40, 7:45 is good. I just got I gotta film, and then I gotta get in the studio. So that's it. But that's no rush on you. That's just me being aware of the time, and that's all.
Yeah, no, we'll condense it to fit you. Thank you so much for doing this for us.
Yeah, let's do it. It's no problem.
Give us a countdown or something. Tell me so we're not looking crazy.
All right, I'm clicking going live now. It should be about 3 seconds.
Hello, everybody. It is Thursday night, and you know what time it is. It is Drop the Mic 2020 night. So excited. Oh my God. The one and only Michael Render, always.
Hi.
Killer Mike is with me tonight, and it is fire. I mean, just absolute fire. He brings the heat. As you all know, he is an activist first, which is a beautiful thing. Started off as an activist. He's a Grammy award-winning, one half of Run the Jewels.
Run the Jewels, yeah.
Husband, he is a father, and he gives a shit. Yeah, just point blank. That's
thank you so much,
Michael.
That's coming from your hero. That's a humbling introduction. Thank you.
No, you do, and it's wonderful to be on this with you. As you know, our colleague Ben Cohen has really been fighting for almost 30 years now to educate people about where the money goes, and so that's what we're going to talk about, where the money goes, and we're going to talk about it in the context of the Pentagon budget, but not in sight of what is happening in real time in streets all across this country. So, as folks know, I start off all the time, 61% of our discretionary budget, $1.19 trillion. Michael, 61% of that budget goes to the Pentagon, not to taking care of our enlisted persons, not to veterans that sit out on the street, but to folks who have military contracts to build more weapons to destroy other folks. 61%, or $720 billion of those dollars go there. Something is wrong with that. And so we want people to know that it is their money. Now, on the other side of that coin is policing and law enforcement, and most city budgets and state budgets. A lot of that money goes towards policing or prisons, you name it. This is how we're spending our money. So we want to know where the money goes and how important it is to take that money and turn it into things that edify. Michael, you were at a press conference with your Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms. You were there with your friend T.I., and you were speaking the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in terms of what was happening in the ATL. Can you talk to us about that moment, and then also this new moment in terms of what happened to Mr. Brooks?
Yeah, well, I was talking directly to Atlanta at that moment, because Atlanta, to me, to Black America and the Black diaspora, has the potential to be what any homeland is for any group of people who don't have one. It is, in my mind, in terms of the Black community, as important as Israel is to the Jewish community. It is as important as Brazil is to the Pan-African community. That's the most African DNA outside of Africa is in Brazil. So, so for me, Atlanta, people say Black Hollywood. Atlanta is not Black Hollywood. Atlanta is Black everything, right? Atlanta, whether it is skyscrapers that have been built by Black developers, movie studios that have been built by Tyler Perry, that deal was helped brokered by a Black mayor, 50 years of Black mayoral leadership, a city that is thriving, the third most Fortune 500 companies in the nation. Atlanta is a place where over 50 restaurants are owned by Black people, and in particular Black women. It is a town that I've seen LaFace Records launch and the current R&B and rap world operate from. It is an amazing city, and not only in my lifetime. It was amazing when my grandmother moved here in 1952. and filled with opportunity. It was that when my grandfather moved here in 1942. It was that during the Atlanta conferences from Booker T. Washington and W.B. Du Bois. So for me, I need people to understand when I'm talking about Atlanta, I'm talking about over 120 years of economic opportunity. I'm not talking about perfection. I'm not saying that Atlanta's Wakanda. That was not my quote. That was my friend's quote. I'm not saying that Atlanta is perfect or chocolatey and perfect by any means. What I'm saying is you have an opportunity here as an African American that you don't have other places. And in fighting any war, you're going to need a fort to keep supplies, to keep food, to keep weaponry, to keep, to stave off hunger, for education. And Atlanta has long been that for me. It's a place that I've encouraged young athletes and entertainers to invest in, to put their money into, to put their moms, their baby moms, their wives and children. So when they retire, they have a community that's used to seeing, folks who look like them have something and encourages that. So when I spoke at the podium, I spoke at the request of my friend Tip. I was not there at the request of the mayor or any other politician, although I support my city's political leaders because I want my city to go well. Even if I didn't vote for you, I'm going to support if once you get in the helm of leadership, because I want to see this city work well. I thought that she was very brave in that moment because I saw her backstage fighting to get the police not to go into the park. And people didn't see that. They didn't see their mayor like, I don't want you going in. Give me the minutes I need to try to get the message to the people. And I admire her and respect her. And I'd also seen the mayor prior to her, Kasim Reed, doing the same thing during the Occupy movement, where I helped to broker a deal that let the Occupy people occupy and get arrested, but had a bunch of hip hop crowd that didn't know that it was an Occupy move able to get ushered out. This is also the mayor that ended cash bail. So if you got locked up in the protest, chances are you got free pretty quickly. So I was down there because Tip asked me to go, and I went, and he asked me to speak, and I felt compelled to say something in the moment to Atlantans to remind them that they are a fortress in a sea of chaos. And after we got off the energy we needed to get off through peaceful and non-peaceful protests, after that energy erupted, what I wanted was what a billboard actually co-opted and put up, and I'm glad they did, was I wanted us to stay in the mentality that got us Atlanta. And that is the mentality of plot, plan, strategize, organize, and mobilize. And what I mean by that is our first Black mayor came along in 1972, 73. His name was a man named Maynard Jackson. Maynard made sure that 29 to 30% of all city contracts went to Black contractors or companies that were associated with Black leadership in some kind of way. It really did. It was an extension of not only that of William Hartsfield, who also was a mayor of Atlanta, who understood the balance of Black and white in this city, who had did courageous things like give Delta a 50-year lease at $1 a year. People ran him out of town, didn't understand how important. But when you land in Atlanta, you see an all Black working class grounds crew. You get to understand like, oh, wow, that's how home ownership happens. That's why. Yeah. So what I was simply saying was fortify that and make sure that in this city that is policed by people who look like you, more than other cities, not 100%, but let's try our best to after this is over, to progress this city, to keep our leadership at the helm, and to keep it a fair city amongst many things, like the state always trying to consume control of the airport, gentrification, and many other things. That it's a teetering balance that we always try to keep here. In terms of the shooting that happened, after it just broke my heart, because I knew that the people just tired. Whether it happened in Atlanta or Cleveland or Tampa or Miami or Daytona, it just shouldn't have happened. And I knew that it was just not going to be right. And I know that people are going to politicize it on both sides. People are going to politicize it to say Atlanta's out of control. We need a new mayor. People are going to politicize to say our mayors and prosecutors have done their best and they did the right thing. So I hate that a death is going to cause a rift that potentially may lose Black people a stronghold in the South, and potentially may lose the Democrats a stronghold in Georgia, because people are plotting and they don't care anything about the dead man. They don't care anything about the officers. They care about their own political agendas. So that's where I am with that. I think it's a travesty that young man is dead. I think there's a travesty that even in a city like Atlanta, where I've seen policemen prosecuted time and time again. Saw police prosecuted for lying and saying a boy was a burglar and stole a car. I saw a policeman prosecuted. The policeman prosecuted that killed Katherine Johnson. I've seen police, before it got popular to prosecute, I've seen them prosecuted out of here. But there's a public trust that broke it. I'm not just from, I'm not just, my father was a policeman when I was a young man. He wasn't a policeman my whole life. My cousins are currently policemen. But I'm not just from a family full of policemen. We got some hustlers, liars, thieves, lowlives, and drug dealers too. But even they will tell you in matters of this city that, hey man, I got a fair one. That Atlanta cops weren't like, and now that public trust is broken. It's gonna take a lot to rebuild that trust from the public side, who pay these policemen salaries, and from the policeman side, who are definitely afraid to police at this point. So I don't know how that gets resolved, but I do know that the Citizens Review Board in Atlanta can be and should be stronger. I know that, because cops that are the bad guys in the lunchroom, they need to be out the lunchroom so that you can get decent cops copping. You know what I mean? I know that besides our Citizens Review Board, that there needs to be a look at policing in this country, period, because policing, like the military, is eating up so much of budgets in cities.
That's right.
And oftentimes buying military shit. Like,
Right.
Do you need a tank in Ferguson? Do you need, what appears to be grenade launchers in full right? Do you really need this stuff 365 days a year? Do you need the amount of it? Do you know what's happening to the drug money you see and the federal monies that are allocated? Because I don't see officer friendly in schools anymore. I don't see officers walking the beat. I don't see officers familiarizing themselves like Tommy Norman with the people on their beat. Tommy Norman is a cop I gave some shine to a few years back in North Little Rock. So I would like to know that Atlanta is going to be on the forefront of not only, anybody can do the right thing after the wrong thing has happened and say, I'm going to prosecute, but are we going to do the right thing and change the culture of policing? And we have an opportunity to, and I hope that as a city, and I hope as a police department and mayoral office that we figure this out before those people on both sides who would like to see us exited out of office as a constituency in terms of the Black community, but before they come in like vultures,
No, you're right, Michael. And just the militarization, as you pointed to, of the police makes no sense on domestic issues when it comes to the whole notion of protecting and serving for the Black community in particular as a force, as a system. We're not talking about individuals. You and I share that in common, that we both have family members that we love who were or still are in law enforcement. Every family has people who have gotten into trouble with the law.
Absolutely.
Hey, that's called life. It's called being human. We want people to be treated fairly with human dignity, and that just has not been how law enforcement has treated the African American community historically.
And we have to be honest. In former Department of Justice leader Jeff Sessions from Alabama, good old Jeff, said in front of a panel of whites and law enforcement officers that law enforcement in this country was a part of white Anglo-Saxon Protestant history. Now, he was right in saying that, but that's a very nice way of saying we invented slave catching. Yeah. And we have to be very honest about how law enforcement has taken hold. It has went from a slave catcher's role into a Jim Crow oppressive role, into I'm going to hire people that look like them, but I'm going to create a system that demands people that look like the oppressed people oppress them as well. And we have to start to operate with the intent to progress that. We have to, like, what the Atlanta killing of that 27-year-old man showed me more than anything is just like we have to rethink the crack laws, right? So crack was an awful thing. We locked up a lot of people who should not have been locked up based on addictions. Even the people who were trying to profit and become business people, those men should have done their 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years in jail and come out with the trade and been carpenters and plumbers. Instead, they got 20, 30, 40, 50 life sentences. And whole communities got decimated without fathers, uncles, adult role models. What we have the opportunity to do with policing now is to say things like drunk driving, we need to rethink. The average drunk driver gets arrested and spend $10,000 getting out of that. That's drunk driving, school, court calls, lawyer calls, right? So it has become a feeding cannibalistic system of catching people. What used to happen when you caught a person drunk sitting somewhere is you would simply put his drunk butt in a parking spot, put him in a cab, send his drunk butt home, and you may or may not write some type of insignificant ticket, and you get that person. Mothers Against Drunk Driving in the 90s did an amazing job lobbying against drunk driving and getting stiffer fines and things. But maybe we have to start to admit that Americans drink so much that we can't criminalize addiction. We cannot criminalize being drunk driving to the point people who are drunk run. People who are drunk speed off. It has to get back to almost a Mayberryism type way where we give the policeman the autonomy or the ability to partner with a company that may want to do good like Uber or Lyft or whoever the next Uber or Lyft is and say, we'll take your drunk drivers home. Because I'm tired of seeing fear. We are internally fearful of police. I'm tired of seeing fear lead to these things. You know, there's a fearful element when it comes to us in policing because of the origins of policing. So I'm hoping that as a city, we can progress some policy that changes. I think that these young Black men and women, including Breonna, are essentially martyrs. And because they're martyrs, the greater community has a responsibility in their martyrdom to honor them through a change of legislation and policy. And that doesn't mean just naming a piece of legislation after them. That means creating legislation that fundamentally honors the humanity by getting rid of a system that targets them. Stop and frisk in New York should be stopped. Chokeholds should be stopped. The way we handle drunk drivers sleeping in their car, should be radically different from catching a drunk driver driving on the expressway. You get caught driving on the expressway, you know you're going to have to do a night in jail. You get caught drunk in the parking lot, you should park your car, and you should be able to park your car and get put in the cab or driven home by the officer. That creates a much more trusting environment with the community and officers. So I'm hoping, again, that policy locally where I am and nationally starts to reflect us correcting some of the mistakes we've made that create this hostile environment, these environments of fear and danger, not only for the policemen, who people seem to be very concerned with in the larger community, but for the communities they actually police. Black people should be feel as safe getting pulled over in any city, major city in the United States as anyone else. And we don't. And there's some getting to the bottom that's necessary. And there's some legislative changes that need to happen. And there's some lobbying changes that need to happen in terms of how we deal with crime. Crime does not only have to be dealt with in a punitive, authoritarian, totalitarian way. There's a more humane way to deal with things that are crimes that should be reflective of a beloved community. And that should be our goal.
That's it, Michael. And so that requires a paradigm shift because, as you just stated, their authoritarian nature by which police officers are cultivated is a problem. This whole, you do what I say when I say it or else I'm going, ultimately I can kill you. I mean, that's really
absolutely.
Talk about what happened to Mr. Brooks. I was just thinking to myself, in the good old days, everything that you just said, they would have said, look, Mr. Brooks, we're going to settle this another time, but let's call somebody to come pick you up. Or as you just said, took him home. And then even when he started running, no, he shouldn't have took their taser. Come on, let's just go and admit that. He shouldn't have took the taser.
Yeah, he should not have taken the taser. Should not have fought.
And rolling around. But once you knew it was a taser, there was partners. So that police officer, that you weren't there by yourself. I get you could have been mobilized. Let's go. We're going to just talk this, workshop this out. We get that.
Yeah.
Let the brother run. You got his car.
Yeah, you got his car. It's just like, and he's drunk, so he's not gonna beat the radio. We have gotten out of. It's almost as though we've gotten smart enough as a society to say that maybe we shouldn't do 120-mile-per-hour chases on the highway. So now, if you strike out, the police back off. They'll hope the radio catch. We have to start to get like that. They knew, if you know the suspect or the person that you've encountered or detaining doesn't have a gun, and once they get the drop on you and run, at some point you got to laugh it off and say, I got his license plate. We'll have the detectives pop up on him in a day or so, or you recognize that the person is inebriated and you make your call and you get them home. But we have to make a paradigm shift in the way we're policing. Drunk driving makes municipalities a lot of money. Let's just be honest. And it is time that we stop being so dependent on that money and taking some of the budget that's allocated toward militarization of local police and allocate that toward whatever the courts uses drunk driving money for. Mm-hmm. But what we can't keep doing is putting poor people in debt because of drunk driving and probation. And why was this young man so afraid to be on probation? Why are Black boys more likely to get extensive or intensive probation? You know, why is there a meme going around of a white 19-year-old and a black 21-year-old with the exact same points? One got 2 years in county jail, one got 26 years. Why does law enforcement not work for the betterment of the community versus seeming to just simply cage? And it's not my indictment on officers. This is my indictment on the system that forces officers to only be soldiers when they should be a part of the community, looked at as protectors and servants.
That's it, Michael. And it is the difference between protecting and serving and occupying, you know, tossing around. And that's what we get in the Black community. It just reminds me, it's the 21st century of the Black codes, really.
Yeah, they're two different codes. If you could see it in New York a month ago, they were literally breaking Black boys' heads on stoops, pushing white women down who were interfering, trying to stop that treatment of them. And right across the city at a park on the river, they were passing out masks.
Yeah,
that was such a slap in the face. That was so shameful to the mayor and the governor. That, to me, that's something that'll never be lived down, because it shows that, you know, that Jim Crow is alive and well in the North.
Jim Crow's cousin and his brothers.
Absolutely.
All of them. So, Michael, we have a question from Marcellus. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. How do y'all feel about the voter suppression we just saw in Georgia and other places, especially after just seeing the same thing with Stacey Abrams? What can people do now and in November to prevent it? Well, we know voters.
I would join, if I'm in Georgia, the New Georgia Project is working to make sure people are rightfully registered and ballots are counted. They're in the onion fields of Vidalia. They're in the housing, the old housing projects, but the hoods in Atlanta from Bankhead to Zone 6. So I would support them because they're on the ground doing the work. I'm not a fan of reinventing the wheel. I'm a fan of making the wheel bigger. So we got some 18s, let's make it some 22s. Let's make some 24s to the truck ride so high we in the sky. But I'm not trying to make a triangle roll like a wheel. What I want to do is find the people that are doing the work and add to them. So the New Georgia Project are on the ground doing the work. There's a sister over there named Insay. She's doing an amazing job. And I think that if we get behind that organization, it's exponentially more of our goals in terms of reducing voter suppression happen. Voter suppression is a part of the American system. And I'm going to tell you, both sides like voter suppression, because where voter turnout is low, whoever is the incumbent seems to win. So if you got a Democratic incumbent in your city, it doesn't matter if you're going to win. If it's a Republican incumbent in the state, it don't matter. But what's happening now is the size of machines went from 24 in my old polling place to 8 to 4. Now it comes in new machines. They've never trained these 60, 70, 80-year-old ladies that have been doing voting for 30 years, 40 years. They never trained them on the new machine. So there is something that is downright evil and un-American about that. But we must stay vigilant with the organizations that are already doing it versus creating new ones. But we have to raise hell. Call your governor, call your lieutenant governor, call your secretary of state, call in an organized fashion. You and 10 of your friends, make sure y'all call and email on the same day and say, we're representing this particular district. Call your state representative. Raise hell every step of the way. If it's 365 days, make sure they hear from you 364 because you took one day off because you needed some rest. But what you cannot do is simply saying it's happening and cry and moan about it and expect other people to do the work. If we all do a little, no one has to do a lot. And there are a lot of people out there doing a little and they need a little help from us.
That's right. There's an African proverb, many hands make for light work. And that is
absolutely.
For many hands. And Michael, I'm glad you laid out the fact that both parties benefit from voter suppression. It is true.
Yes.
They don't care if it benefits the candidate they want to win. And that's why we have to care. We, the people, have
Absolutely. Every day. Absolutely. We have to care more about policy than personality. You know, as a personality, I've seen a lot of politicians that I like. Some of them I won't vote for. Personality is great personality. She's a great personality. But policy, what is the policy that helps us? And we're going to have to start doing better about knowing in the immediate. Go to your neighborhood unit meetings. Talk to your 10 neighbors that are to your right and left. You know, let's start talking more amongst ourselves and stop letting people talk for us. You know, let's decide some of the things that we want. Because I think when we do that, it's going to hold both parties to a higher regard. Well, not a higher, it's going to hold them to a higher standard that they have to meet in order to engage us. In other words, you can't come across us with no bullshit. You got to come with something for real.
And we can't fall so in love. Yes, some people are good retail politicians. You like their personality, but we cannot continue to fall so in love with people that we don't critique them and that we don't hold
Absolutely.
them.
Absolutely. And no one's above critique. I tell people all the time, hey, man, I'm probably going to do something you don't like. And when I do it, just correct me. I'll say I'm sorry and we'll get back on it.
Amen.
Don't, you ain't got to throw me out. I accept correction well. You know what I mean? So I tell people I'm going to make a mistake. And at some point you just say, hey, Mike, I didn't agree with you on that one. I'll shrug my shoulders. Hey, my bad. And we'll go. I was talking to a friend of mine. Evil cooperates better than good. Evil doesn't care who it collaborates with. It'll collaborate with somebody good if it'll meet the ends of evil. And good people and people with married to principles and morals and not personalities, we have to start to look past our differences. And we have to start to say, I have to do what's right for the greater of us all, or you're going to always lose against evil, because evil is always going to cooperate with whoever it has to in order to maintain power.
Well, Michael, I usually say evil never sleeps, so good can never take a vacation. I mean,
Absolutely.
that's
Absolutely.
it's coming down to.
Absolutely.
In our final minutes together, I just want to remind folks that there is promise in the problem. There's a heaviness right now. There's a lot that our local, regional, and state officials can do while we're fighting the feds, but we don't have to wait on the government to come save us.
Absolutely.
We can save ourselves. I want to shout out Common Defense, Code Pink, About Face, Peace Action, Our Revolution, and the Poor People's Campaign with our very own Dr. William Barber, the Bishop. So yeah, shout them out. So Michael, people are feeling a little helpless, a little hopeless. You know, the great James Baldwin once said that not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is unless
it's faced.
Yeah. What are some of your final thoughts to people who are feeling a helplessness and a hopelessness right now? And a heaviness.
You are not helpless. It is not, it is heavy. But you are not helpless and it is not hopeless. Plot, plan, strategize, organize, and mobilize. Plot out what you want. Set a plan in course. Strategize with others. Organize with others and mobilize together. So you start by yourself. You plot, you may even do a lot of planning, a little planning by yourself. But then you start to strategize with others. And then you organize with others and then you mobilize together. And in that struggle, you're going to build new relationships, new networks, new friends. You're going to grow personally as a human being, help others grow. And you're going to understand that the word solidarity is more than a word on a t-shirt. You're going to have solidarity with people that feel, that know, and that move as you. And you're going to understand the possibilities in solidarity. It is not as lonely when you understand you ain't alone. It is not as by yourself when you understand there's others with you. You know what I mean? And it is not impossible when you see many hands. You know, from many hands, what light work? That's what you just told me. So that's what I feel we're going to have to do, that we're going to have to go back